The sun began to set over the Arizona mountains, bathing the sky in warm orange and purple. Jack Reynolds, a 37-year-old veteran, walked slowly toward the city's animal shelter. His worn boots clattered on the pavement, reminding him with each step of the severity in the last few years since leaving the Army 2 years ago. He had tried in vain to fill the gap that had opened up in his life. Neither work nor therapy had been able to fill this gap. Rex, his faithful German shepherd, had accompanied him on countless dangerous missions. But after Rex had been retired, after an injury, Jack had tried to cope without his four-legged friend, but it was not the same. The animal shelter he was standing in front of was small and inconspicuous. The rusty fences and makeshift doghouses gave off the smell of disinfectants mixed with the occasional bee that came from the inside. Jack was here, at the request of his older sister Emily, who was convinced that a dog could help him to cope with the aftermath of his service. He entered hesitantly the animal shelter deep inside. He felt that this visit was an important step, even if he did not know why he walked through the narrow corridors and cast a scrutinizing look at the dogs in the cages. Some barked and wagged their tails enthusiastically to get his attention. Others watched him in silence, their eyes filled with quiet melancholy. But none of them seemed to have the special spark he once shared with Rex. Just as he was about to give up, a young employee of the animal shelter spoke to him. "Mr. Reynolds, we have a German shepherd in the back who you might be interested in. He came here a few weeks ago, but he is something special." Jack looked at her in surprise, and finally nodded silently, a word he followed her into a secluded area of the animal shelter. In one of the cages in the very back corner lay a large dog with black-brown fur. His posture was tense. His eyes, however, tired. Jack's heart began to beat faster. He would have recognized this dog anywhere. "Rex," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The German shepherd lazily raised his head and looked at him, but there was no recognizable movement, no wagging tail, no rise to greet him. Just a blank look, as if Jack was a stranger. "He doesn't recognize me," murmured Jack as he took a step back. Pain shot through him as he said these words, but something held him back from just giving up this dream of seeing him again. It was Rex who, there he was sure the dog that had once saved his life, was now only a shadow of his former self. The scars on Rex's hind leg and on one of his ears told of the battles they had gone through together, but the eyes were once full of life and energy, dark and distant. Jack recognized the invisible wounds because he carried the same burdens he has been through a lot. The employee explained quietly. He was found in another state, in a smaller animal shelter. It seems as if someone had abandoned him who could not cope with him. He suffers from anxiety and doesn't trust people so quickly anymore. She paused and looked at Jack before she asked, "Do you know him?" Jack nodded slowly. His voice was barely more than a whisper when he said, "Yes, he was once my partner, my best friend for a moment." His thoughts lost themselves in memories, the exhausting training in which they learned to trust each other blindly, the dangerous missions in which Rex had saved his life more than once, and the lonely nights in which the dog saved him from collapsing. And now, after all these years, Rex no longer recognized him. The employee opened carefully the cage. Rex watched her but made no attempt to move. Jack slowly knelt down and held out his hand. "Hey, buddy, I'm Jack," he said quietly. His voice trembled, but he held her tight. Rex tilted his head slightly as if he wanted to understand. Remained but still tense, the employee.